All right, there we go, everybody. Now we're pushing the right buttons. Let me push this button. Okay, now we're live everywhere. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Appreciate you being here. And happy Thanksgiving Eve for those of you guys in America. In America, where that's a great question about the Gnosticism, by the way. I appreciate it. So, hey, guys, we are having a fine Sunday. It was I'm sorry, it's just an old. There was a priest that I used to know when growing up in the Roman Catholic Church, and when I was an altar boy, Father Pius was his name, Father Pius. And no matter what you said to Father Pius, fine, good. I mean, you could say Father Pius. A shark just ripped off my leg. Fine, good, fine. But when you said Father Pius, the count is low in bingo. What? I mean, I was like, excuse me? The Quran is the holy book of the Islam faith. So that's it. But he was, let me tell you something, Father Pius was brilliant when it came to business. Let me tell you, that man, you could, I actually like Father Pius. I really liked him. Actually, Stian, I've been on Coast to Coast quite a few times, not with Art Bell, but with George Norrie, quite a few actually. So anyway, okay, folks, welcome. Appreciate you guys being here. And there we go, guys. I'm telling you now, if you're going to be rude and disrespectful, not only am I going to screenshot, but I'm going to report the information to all the other social media platforms to get your account banned, especially because I'm telling you right now, YouTube and Facebook are very strict with their new restrictions and guidelines. So I'm going to give you a heads up right now. All I got to do is screenshot and send it over to a friend of mine that works with YouTube, not employees, but they have connections to YouTube, and I'll just get your account banned. So that is your only warning. If you can't behave, your account's going to be taken away from you. All right. Well, wonderful, Michelle. I think that's wonderful. Okay, everybody, I appreciate you being here. So I'm Bishop Long. Your unbelief, it is written, how do I work on that? Your unbelief in what? Depends, Apple user, what you're referring to. Unbelief in what? Okay, everybody, tonight's Bible study. And at the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to do our prayer meditation. Okay. You are the first that I'm screenshotting, and your account is going to be banned. There you go. Easy as that. Sorry, I'm giving you a warning. A lot of social media platforms have really come down pretty strict on attacking people and things of this nature. Now, TikTok is a little bit behind schedule. Thankfully, I work with an agency that is actually directly connected to TikTok. And so all I got to do is screenshot. So moderators, do me a favor. If we have people coming in being rude and disrespectful and saying nasty things, what you do is click on their name, screenshot their profile, and send it to me, and then I'll send it to the agency, because the agency is actually registered with TikTok, and then we'll just get their account banned. Okay, so yeah, to send the timeout. All right, everybody, happy Wednesday. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. Listen, before we get to our presentation, for those of you who are watching on all the other social media platforms, allow me please to play this video for you on behalf of the MKS Kids Foundation. Here it is.
Fans of Bishop James Long, the renowned exorcist and paranormal expert on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Now you can carry his wisdom with you. Our Bishop James Long collection features blessed apparel such as St. Benedict hats and tees, as well as home items to protect and inspire. Elevate your spiritual journey. Go to kgradb.com/shop and discover the Bishop James Long merch today.
And of course, it would help the MKS Kids Foundation. Now look, Christmas is right around the corner. So make sure, moderators, can you put the website there on TikTok? That way we can kind of get all that information there. Thank you, Jax. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and pen that. All right. So there it is. For those of you on TikTok, that is the site. And they have some the St. Michael products, St. Benedict products. St. Benedict is the patron saint for exorcists and police officers. So we call upon St. Benedict, we call upon St. Michael to protect us from evil. And so, yes, you call upon God, no question about it. But when you're calling upon St. Benedict and you're calling about St. Michael, they are working for God. They are in communion with God. And so we do have our guardian angels and the saints above in heaven to help, to intercede for us on our behalf. So please head on over there. Now, if you want to go to my site, that's very simple. Just Bishop James Long, you follow that up with the .com. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see there is a brand new book. And that brand new book is a paranormal training manual. Please purchase that. And I'll tell you why. 100% of the profits from the book will go to the MKS Kids Foundation. Okay, so I think that's pretty special. 100%. And Judy Ann is helping me with editing the demonology book as well as the book of Revelation. So I've wrote those two books, and I have finished the 7 Archangel books. So that should be published. It will definitely be published by Friday. So that'll be available. And I appreciate Judy Ann helping. So matter of fact, let's bring Judy Ann in there. Hello there, Judy Ann. How are you?
Well, hello, good evening, and everybody, welcome to Bible study.
I appreciate you being here. Oh, okay. What's the, let's say no answer. I got that. You're busy. Yeah, whatever. Bless you anyway. Okay. Don't say whatever. Please understand that I run the show on, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 chats opened. Okay. Now, I have asked you your question. I obviously missed it, and that's because I'm running the show on 2 different computers. See, when I look at this computer, that means I can't see what you're typing on this computer. You see how that works? Because my eyes are on this computer. You see that? Now watch. In communication, they call panning. Then you pan to this camera, and then I can see what you're writing. That's pretty cool. So go ahead and let's see, because I was looking for someone was asking about their faith. And my question, no. What was you said you were losing your faith. And I asked, what you're losing your faith in what? So Apple user, by the way, I can't be mad at you, Apple user, because you're an Apple. Look, I love Apple. I'm all about Apple. I don't understand Windows. Windows drives me crazy. So from an Apple user to Apple user, I got your back. See, that's how we roll around here. See, the window, we don't do Windows here. I don't understand. Windows drives me crazy. Okay, so what do you got? All right. I think, gosh, I think I still have my old Mac from like 20 years ago. Yeah, I think I do.
I think you do have. That thing was so old.
Yeah,
you sent me a picture of it.
Yeah. Okay, so come on, Apple user. What is it? Because we gotta get moving here on Bible study, and I love to stay in chat, but we gotta get. So what are you losing your faith in? Because that's important. That's important. So
and hello to everybody. I see so many people saying hello to me. I see you all. Goes straight to my heart. I'm so glad to see you all here.
Yeah, it's. By the way, tonight I want to remind everybody that we do have night prayer. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us. We would love for you guys to be there. And if you want to follow along with us, so tonight, if you want to follow along, all you got to do is go to the church's site, USOCC. You follow that up with a .org, and you click on Bible study, okay? And you click on the link, and there you go. So Apple user, we got to go. We got to move on because I can't hold the presentation, so I can only hold it for so long. But I am. Unless they left. Apple user, come on, you can't let us down. You're an Apple user.
There's Moi. I haven't seen Moi in so long.
Who's
so good to see her. Moi.
Oh yeah, Moi. It has been a while.
She is a doll, and it's so nice to see her again. And hello, all of you. I know who you are. I see you all.
You see us, and of course, and now Judy Ann. I want to remind everybody, if you want us to pray for your prayer petition, normally Judy Ann gives it a few more extra minutes. Sometimes
she does.
But guys, you got to put your prayer petition in there right now. So if you're hold on one second. If you're on TikTok, go to my TikTok profile, find the video for tonight's night prayer, place your prayer petitions in there right now. Put it in the comments. For all the other folks, go to USOCC, follow that up with a .org. And then to become a parishioner, it takes you to her book to the face page, and then find Judy Ann's post. What were you saying, Judy Ann?
Well, before you cut me off, I was saying that as long as
excuse
Bishop
me,
Long
I was in the
nice to
middle of
me,
I was in the
I'll
middle of
allow
the
some extra
conversation,
time.
but no, princess. You did the what? What happened?
I'm just pushing your buttons again. Oh, yeah, folks, I will give you until 9 o'clock tonight, okay?
Thank you.
Because that's about the time I'll finish up with Bible study. And so
Thank
get your prayer petitions in. Remember, only one petition, and please put a first name in the body of your prayer petition. Thank you.
Yeah, Lieutenant Dan said, tough crowd. It indeed is. It indeed is. It makes it difficult when I have to deal with some people who are trolling and then other people who are not supposed to be trolling. All right, let's go into our Bible study, guys, because we want to make sure that we stop at the top of the hour so we can do our prayerful meditation. Here we go.
Okay.
Yep, Emma, go to my TikTok profile, find the video, and place your prayer petitions, okay? And we'll pray for them tonight. All right, everyone go to the church's site, USOCC, follow that up with a .org, and click on the Bible study link, and click on today's date. So our first reading, everybody, comes from a fantastic book. It is Daniel chapter 5, verse 1 through 6, 13 through 14, 16 through 17, and 23 through 28. Okay, Judy Ann, let's see what you got.
King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and of silver, which Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem, he brought, that the king and his lords, his wives and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought in the golden and silver vessels which had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem. And his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Immediately, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, opposite the lampstand, and the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king said to Daniel, "You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah. I have heard of you that the spirit of the holy God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold about your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom." Then Daniel answered before the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself, and give your rewards to another. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. But you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and the vessels of his house have been brought in before you. And you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know. But the God in whose hand is your breath, and whose are all your ways, you have not honored." Then from his presence the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed: Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. This is the interpretation of the matter. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians.
Excellent. That's weird, because I think you read the whole thing. Okay, let's.
That's what was. Let me see here. 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
And 23 and 20. Oh, there's 25, 26, and 27. Yeah. I pulled exactly what was in there.
You did.
Mm. Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Well, it's all right.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I was wondering. It was going on like a piece of steak that's too tough to chew, and you're chewing and chewing, and you can't get through it.
It was like, yeah, okay, here we go, everybody. We're going to read the whole book of Daniel, but that's good. That's good. I appreciate it. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, of all the stupid stunts I've read in the Bible, I think this one takes the cake. So Belshazzar was the last king of ancient Babylon, and he happened to reign for a period of time during the life of the prophet Daniel. And notice how Daniel could not be bought when he was promised the gold chain and the purple clothing and all of that. He wasn't about to fall for that. This is a grand example of what happens to the reckless morons who mock God with their arrogance and outright disobedience. What happens? Remember that what God gives to us, it's not guaranteed forever. If you can't handle the responsibility, you can count on God removing from you what he gifted you. So here we see that this king had his power yanked away. But notice that God wanted him to know that it was going to happen. He sent a divine message through Daniel's interpretation that clearly stated his reign was on the rocks. His kingdom would be divided and given to the Medes and the Persians, all because of sacrilege and insult. Belshazzar was worshiping other gods, gold and silver and iron and wood and stone, instead of the God who controls all things and is the giver of all good things. You know, we see this today where people let their quote unquote crowns go to their heads, and they stoop to worshiping idols of money and materials, their own fame or significance in society. Belshazzar had become a master of blasphemy by hosting feasts using sacred vessels from Jerusalem's temple. I mean, what did he think was going to happen? And that led to this miraculous appearance of the hand writing on the wall that foretold the end of his kingdom. In verse 27, about being found wanting, that means lacking. And you know who else is going to be weighed in the balances and found lacking in today's society? Is prosperity gospel preachers. They are using the platforms designed to bring people to God, raising money in the name of our holy God in places they call a church or a temple, and committing blasphemy by worshiping money and clearly demonstrating their love of self. So their days are also numbered. That's what I got out of it.
Well, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the reading and the fantastic, the great.
You're not going to let that one. You're not going to let that one go.
It's all good. The Spirit told you just keep on going, and you were trucking. I mean, you were in 20th gear. You were going. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, let me break this down for you a little bit, so we can. There's a lot here. There is in this particular reading. The chapter describes the famous story of King Belshazzar of Babylon. He offers a banquet using sacred vessels that were stolen from Jerusalem, and his subsequent encounter with the mysterious handwriting on the wall. Really, it's a story about pride, humility, God's judgment, and God's sovereignty. For those of you just joining us, again, we're having Bible studies, so welcome everybody. And the readings are, you can find those on USOCC, follow that up with .org, click on Bible study. Verses 1 through 6, basically the feast and the pride of Belshazzar. Verse 1, Belshazzar, the king, made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of 1,000. Look, pride and indulgence often mark moments where people forget their humility before God. And Belshazzar's grand feast shows his confidence in his power, but also his arrogance. So when we indulge in worldly pleasures or seek to elevate ourselves, we might be overlooking our need for humility before God. Pride, friends, can blind us from spiritual truth. In verse 2, and while he was drinking wine, Belshazzar gave a command to bring in the vessels of gold and silver that his father, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem. This is about disrespect. Disrespect for sacred things reflects a heart that dismisses God's sovereignty and holiness. Using God's sacred vessels for frivolous purposes, well, it signifies a lack of reverence. Are we responding to what is sacred? Do our actions show reverence for God's presence and what he values? Disregard for God's holiness can lead to spiritual emptying. Verse 3 and 6, then they brought in the gold vessels and drank wine, and then they praised the gods of silver and gold. Okay, look, idolizing wealth, pleasure, false gods shows spiritual blindness. And Belshazzar's arrogance leads him to mock God. Well, that prompts divine judgment. We must all guard our hearts from placing worldly idols, status, possessions, pleasure above God. Spiritual pride, idolatry, that can blind us from true wisdom. We see a lot of idolatry going on today. A lot. I mean, my goodness, we have, of course, I guess from many, many years ago until today, people still idolize celebrities. We got to be careful about this. And then verse 13 and 14 basically says, then Daniel was brought in before the king. So when we humble ourselves, even in difficult circumstances, God can give us courage and wisdom to speak the truth. Now, so we must all be prepared to stand for what is right, especially when others reject it or mock divine principles. In verse 14, I have heard, so verse 14 says, I have heard of you that the Spirit of God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. So true wisdom and understanding come from God. And we always must seek wisdom from God's presence. How rich is your group? Actually, I've taken a vow of poverty, and I don't get paid at all for being a bishop. I don't receive a stipend. I don't receive a salary. I do this ministry for 100% free. For 25 years, I've never charged one penny. Now, how rich is your group? Would you like to sponsor? Verse 16 and 17. Now I have heard of you, that you have the Spirit of God, but I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve difficult problems. Well, humility and recognition of God's work and others open the door for God's wisdom. Daniel modestly attributes his ability to God's Spirit. Every one of us, we should acknowledge that all wisdom and talents come from God. Humility allows him to work through us. And verse 17, it says, let your gifts be for yourself and your rewards for yourself, but I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. Humility entails serving others without seeking personal gain. Daniel's focus is on truth and spiritual integrity, not personal glory. And verse 23 and 28, 23 says, but you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven. Pride, arrogance toward God brings spiritual downfall. But see, Belshazzar's arrogance led him to mock God. Humility before God is essential. Pride can block our connection to God's guidance. And I believe open the door to spiritual ruin. And verse 24 and 28, it says, to wrap that up, God's sovereignty means he knows and controls human history. Pride will be judged. Earthly kingdoms are temporary compared to his eternal rule. No matter how powerful or proud we may feel, God's sovereignty remains. We are all called to live humbly, acknowledging that our human strength and kingdoms, they're fleeting. I think how the takeaways for this reading for me is this. Humility is a spiritual foundation. See, Daniel's humility in seeking and delivering truth shows that true wisdom originates from a humble heart in surrender to God. This is why, in fact, we absolutely speak 100% against prosperity gospel. WXLF says, boring. Yes, demons don't like when I speak about the gospel either. Okay. Disrespect for sacred things or God's words, whether in ancient times or today, leads to spiritual decline. Reverence for God, well, that feels meaningful in worship and righteousness. A lack of reverence for God shows ignorance. See, God's sovereignty is absolute. The handwriting on the wall reminds us that God's authority cannot be challenged. All human pride and achievement are temporary in the light of divine eternity. Just remember about pride, folks. Pride blinds us to God's truth, invites judgment. And spiritual pride can deceive us into thinking we are invincible. But God resists the proud. Let's go into a deeper theological explanation, if you don't mind. And again, TikTok, if you can't behave, I'm putting sub chat on. I'm telling you right now, we're not going to allow people to come in and disrupt Bible study. Not going to happen. That's your the only warning. So if you can't be just a decent human being and sit back and listen or leave. But if you're going to be disrespectful, I'll put sub chat on and I won't give it a second thought. Telling you right now. Okay. Well, it's a collar. It reminds of our vows that we made. So, no, we have Bible studies on Sundays and Wednesdays, and then we have night prayer every Sunday through Friday. We also have rosary Monday through Saturday, and we also have early morning prayer at 3 a.m. So, yeah, we're pretty busy. Okay. Hold your questions, guys, because I really want to get through our Bible study tonight. This story is about pride, humility, God's authority, and how we live in the presence of God's sovereignty. It is the story of King Nebuchadnezzar and the mysterious handwriting on the wall. So let's just set the stage. The story takes place in Babylon, a great empire symbolizing human achievement, power, pride. Babylon was a city proud of its splendor, its wealth, divine illusions of invincibility. It had forgotten something fundamental, that all human power is temporary, and that behind every kingdom, every empire, and every human boast there is a divine hand shaping history. You see, Babylon was the greatest empire of its time. It's an incredible achievement in human civilization. Its king, Nebuchadnezzar, he was a mighty ruler. He was humbled by God. And after Nebuchadnezzar's pride was broken, his successor, Belshazzar, decided to ignore that lesson. He threw a feast, defied God's holiness by drinking from sacred vessels stolen from the Temple of Jerusalem, declared himself above God's authority. That was a moment of hubris, a dangerous belief that human greatness can ignore God's authority, that their power and splendor can exist outside of God's watchful eye. But see, God in his justice and wisdom gives a clear warning. Pride tends to lead us away from humility, closer to destruction. Think about it. When we celebrate our success, when we indulge in pleasures, or when we dismiss God's holiness, it's easy to forget that nothing on this earth lasts forever. There's nothing wrong with celebrating. If you got a job or something, that's great. You should celebrate. But everything, all gifts, all glory goes to God. So one night, Belshazzar's party was interrupted by an extraordinary event. A mysterious hand appeared and wrote cryptic words on the wall. Now, personally, I think maybe they've been drinking a bit too much. This handwriting was a divine message. It's a warning that human kingdoms, even the mightiest, are fleeting in the light of God's eternal sovereignty. So, and here's something that many people miss. This was not just a literal warning for a king thousands of years ago. It's a spiritual wake-up call for us today. It reminds us every life, every success, every empire, every pride, especially when built apart from God's truth, is under God's watchful eye and will be judged. And what I want us to see today is that God's sovereignty is a steady, unshakable reality. This is it kind of breaks my heart when I see people coming in from TikTok and they're trying to disrupt Bible study. That's blasphemy. And they take it as a joke. You are coming in and trying to disrupt teaching the Word of God. That is demonic. And as clergy, it's my job to say, hey, you're treading on thin ice here. I would never, ever, first of all, I would never try to disrupt Bible study. Even if you don't like the person who is actually teaching, to purposely disrupt it, man, that's talking about pride. See, the handwriting on the wall is not just for kings and kingdoms. It's for every human heart. When we forget God's holiness, when we elevate ourselves above God, when we try to disrupt Bible study, when we dismiss God's truth, we are literally writing on the same wall, declaring in our actions, I don't need God. And here's a thought that maybe some people haven't thought about. God's sovereignty is not just about judgment. It's fundamentally about his love and desire for us to live in truth and humility. The handwriting on the wall is a gentle yet firm warning that true power and lasting security come not from human achievement, but from an alignment with God's will. Think about this. When Daniel interrupts the writing, he doesn't do it out of arrogance or pride. Nope. Instead, he humbly points to God's authority, reminding the king that God is the one who numbers our days, that humans are only stewards of what God has given. And that's the key right there. Our lives, our kingdoms, our success, they are not ours to hold on forever. They are gifts from God, and we are called to steward them with humility and reverence. So the writing on the wall is, in essence, you are accountable to the eternal King. You know, many people ask, well, why does God wait so long? Why does he let pride grow, kingdoms flourish, and then suddenly bring judgment? The answer is that God's patience is rooted in his love. He's giving us space, a space to turn from pride to humility, from independence to dependence on him. Think this through. Divine patience is not a sign of weakness. That is a space where God's mercy calls us to repent and obviously humble ourselves. Yet in our pride, we can ignore that God's patience and dismiss the warnings. Then suddenly divine judgment comes. And that reminds all of us of an essential, I think, a spiritual truth. God is patient, but his patience is not indefinite. Every moment of mercy is an act of divine love. And the question is, are you paying attention? Are you listening to the handwriting on the wall? And I want to bring this message home here. How does this ancient story speak to us today? Well, first, it calls us to examine our behaviors. Are there areas of pride where we are dismissing God's authority? Are we living as if our possessions, our status, our achievement are limitless? You know, the handwriting is warning us. Nothing human is truly lasting. And second, it challenges us to cultivate humility. True humility recognizes that we are all, every one of us, that we are, and all we have comes from God's hand. When we live with this awareness, we treat others with respect, avoiding boasting, judging, trolling. And third, it emphasizes the importance of paying attention to God's warning. Sometimes God's Spirit speaks softly to our conscience, urging us to change, to humble ourselves, to step into his truth. Are you listening? Are you responding? And lastly, I think it encourages us to trust in God's sovereignty, no matter how chaotic life seems or how proud others may be. Okay, let me get this account blocked and banned. Okay, Robert, your account's going to be banned. Excuse me 1 second. There you go. I mean, after the fifth time someone makes a disgusting comment about children, that goes to a level where you are so lost spiritually. To make even a joke about that says a lot about where you are in this world. And I will pray for you because your soul is in great peril. Okay, and lastly, like I said, encourages us to trust in God's sovereignty. Sub-chat is on. It will be on for the rest of the night. You know, the story of Belshazzar and the handwriting on the wall, it's not just about God's judgment. It's an invitation to humility and awareness. It reminds us that God's sovereignty is real and unshakable. No matter what our kingdoms are or how powerful we feel, our lives are ultimately under his divine watch. So let's respond not with fear, but with humility, knowing that true strength is found in surrendering to God's authority. When we do, we live rightly, guided by truth. All right, everybody, let's go into our second reading. It's Daniel chapter 3, verses 62 through 67. What many of you don't know is there's a lot of groups on TikTok that attack me viciously because I put sub-chat on during Bible study. You guys may not be aware of it. I am. And some of the things that they say are pretty god-awful. And so that's why I try to leave chat on for everybody. But the moment I do, then people see how vulgar and disgusting, how demonic that people can get on TikTok. And that is why I put sub-chat right back on. So I do it, I leave it on for a reason, so that everyone can see the type of unbelievable demonic activity that exists in this world today. I'm going to say this one more time, and then we're moving on. We're done. If you're trolling, you're going to lose your salvation. And if you're trolling, I bind you to that sin. And now you must confess your sins, because now those sins have been bound to you. As Jesus said, whatever sins that are forgiven, whatever sins that are retained. You are committing blasphemy when you troll. You're not doing the work of God. You may think you're cute and funny, but I promise you, when you see God, he will not be laughing. And I've tried extensively to try to change your ways, but I wash my hands. I wash my hands. So I'm not going to beg anymore. I'm not going to plead with you anymore. Your choice. Keep trolling. And when you meet your maker, he will tell you, I know you not. Depart from me, you evildoer. You know, as clergy, it's my job to try to remind people, hey, you got to knock it off. You got to knock it off. You're going down the wrong path here. And I take that very seriously. But I also realize that it gets to a point where you have to say, okay, that's it. Enough's enough. So we tried. We tried. Okay. That is the end of the trolling issue. I've said that again, and then God puts it in my heart. James, tell him, remind him, and I do it. And I understand you guys are frustrated. You guys don't get the death threats I do. So you need to understand that these people, I truly believe, are in very serious danger of losing their salvation. Because trolling is a sign of demonic activity. As an exorcist, I have to confront that. And I think that is just as important as Bible study. This is Bible study. So when I see activity that is demonic, I'm not going to placate. I'm going to stand firm and stand against it. Those of you who are trolling, I'm telling you now, you are participating in demonic activity. And should you continue, and when you breathe your last breath, you're going to hear the flap of the wings of the devil that you have served your entire life. And I've tried to explain to you over and over. And as an exorcist, and I'm telling you, you are participating in demonic activity. And it's sad to see, but okay. I think I'll pray for you, but from now on, I will pray for you silently. Okay, Daniel chapter 3, verse 62 through 67. And Julianne, if you would do us the honor.
I certainly will. Bless the Lord, sun and moon. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. Bless the Lord, stars of heaven. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. Bless the Lord, all rain and dew. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. Bless the Lord, all winds. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. Bless the Lord, fire and heat. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever. Bless the Lord, winter cold and summer heat. Sing praise to him and highly exalt him forever.
Excellent. And of course, if we are at Mass, we'd say the word of the Lord. All right, Judy Ann, what do you got for this reading for us today?
Well, this is a beautiful opus of creation worshiping God. All of it attests to our loving Creator. And Daniel was adamant that God is exalted at all times, no matter what the circumstances. The theme of God's loving supremacy and grandeur, his power, is reflected in all that strikes us with awe, such as the vastness of the cosmos, including the sun and the moon as mentioned here, the rain and the winds, or look at a thunder and lightning storm. And have you ever stopped to consider how God seams everything together with perfection? I'll give you one example out of millions that attests to our God. Consider the macrophage. Some of you might have learned this in biology. That's a type of white blood cell in our immune system that they act as a first responder, if you will, to infections or injuries. They engulf and digest pathogens and foreign material or cellular debris, the stuff we don't need anymore. They trigger the immune response. They repair and maintain our tissues. Yeah, that's the fingerprint of God right there in your body, doing its job. And by doing its job, exalting God with obedience. Everything in the universe, including that tiny unseen macrophage, which, by the way, is one of 30 to 40 trillion cells in the human body, they all reflect God's splendor and his love of creation. And because of this and so much more, we exalt him forever. And that's one of the main reasons I can't wait to get to heaven, so I can thank him eternally for his love.
Very, very good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Your Grace.
All right, let's get into this. So in this chapter, King Nebuchadnezzar, he set up a gigantic idol, demanded everyone to worship it. And, there's a few folks that stood firm in their faith, and they're thrown into a fiery furnace. So the story highlights faith, obedience, and God's protection, and the power of unwavering trust in him. See, verses 62 through 67 comprise of the song of praise that the king issues after witnessing God's miraculous deliverance of the three young men. It's a moment of divine victory. So 62, at that time, King Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather together the satraps and administrators, governors and advisors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Okay. The verse tells us about a gathering, an event of human pride, worship. It reminds us that worldly powers often try to orchestrate appearances of greatness. But true greatness belongs to God and God alone. So we might be tempted to seek recognition, to build our reputation in ways that elevate us above God, but only God's glory is eternal. We see this all the time, especially in the entertainment business. How many people have blatantly boasted about making a pact with the devil? If you look at so many of the musicians, before and after some transition, it got very dark. Their music, their videos was just pure demonic. Verse 63, and the herald cried aloud, "To you it is commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, the symphony with all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the golden image, which Nebuchadnezzar, the king, has set up." So the verse emphasizes a command to conform outwardly, worship what is false, which represents false gods or worldly idols. We have that today in today's world. Many people are pressured to conform to societal standards, to value material success over spiritual integrity. But our challenge is to stand firm. When culture pressures push us away from genuine worship of God. By the way, the music here, it's interesting. The many instruments, It symbolizes the seductive allure of worldly pleasures and distractions. The lesson is being rooted in true worship requires resisting the seductive way and sway of worldly noise that tries to drown out God's voice. Verse 64, and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of a fiery furnace. It's horrible. The verse highlights the stark choice between obedience to worldly pressure or obedience to God. Living for Christ often means making tough choices. You'll be mocked, sometimes risking social rejection, hardship. Our spiritual lesson is this: true obedience to God may require standing firm amid threats or intimidation. Our faith in God's deliverance can give us courage. Verse 65 and 67 basically says, to all the people, the nations, they should be cut into pieces. And I obviously have to be careful for TikTok rules, because there is no other God that can deliver this after this sort. So basically, Nebuchadnezzar, he recognized God's unmatched power, and he affirms that no other gods can deliver like him. See, real spiritual strength is centered in the truth of God's sovereignty. And as believers, our confidence must be rooted in the truth that God alone has the power to save, heal, and deliver. That encourages us to testify boldly about God's greatness. When you look at this reading, faithfulness to God's truth leads to divine promotion. Blessings, honor come from God. Oh yeah, absolutely, Susie. Yeah, but that's what they experienced. And if you got to think about this, how many of you today, and this is a tough question, but how many of you today, if you had a king or lived in a country where you could not escape, said you must either bend the knee and worship this false, I don't know what, let's a cow, golden cow. And if you don't, you're going to be thrown into a fiery furnace. How many of you, and I'm not asking for you to say it now, that's not the point, but it's an interesting reflection. How many of you would bend the knee? I think a lot of us would say, well, I hope that I would have the courage enough to say, no, I'm not going to bend that knee. It's easy for us to say that now when we're sitting comfortably in our own homes. But if you see that furnace right in front of you, it's just something to think about. Let's go into a deeper theological explanation on this. This is this story is old as time. It's irrelevant as the air that I think we breathe. It's about faith and pride, God's sovereignty and true worship. Story of King Nebuchadnezzar's proclamation after witnessing the mighty power of God. It's right after the fiery furnace incident that tested the faith of three people. See, that's Shay. That's the $1 million question, isn't it? But Jesus said, if you deny him, does he have a right then to deny you? To set the stage, imagine a great king, one of the most powerful rulers of the day, surrounded by his court. This was when I was in the Roman seminary, we had discussions like this a lot. So he was surrounded by his court, declaring his mighty empire, idolizing power, success. But then something astonishing happens. They see that the God of these three young men is more powerful than any other idol or earthly throne. And in response, Nebuchadnezzar, who had previously set up an idol demanding worship, makes a declaration that reveals the true nature of God's sovereignty. It's important to understand the background. Babylon was the dominant empire of its time. It was rich, mighty, proud, powerful. And Nebuchadnezzar believed that he was the ultimate authority and God himself in many ways. See, his empire had conquered nations. Pride was colossal. and setting up a massive idol was not just about nationalism or religion. It was about declaring that his power was supreme. But the story turns when Nebuchadnezzar witnesses a miracle. His pride is confronted by the undeniable power of the true God, the God that we worship, who had been willing to face death, these three men, rather than worship a false idol. And after this, Nebuchadnezzar makes this historic proclamation, which has powerful lessons for all of us. But I want to focus on what this story teaches us about true power and worship, God's sovereignty. First, it's about that. I think first, it's about what we worship. You see, in the story, the king had set up a huge idol, an image representing his greatness, something people were supposed to bow down to. But yet the truth is, we all worship something in our lives. Some people might worship money, success, status, followers, even trying to be in control of everything. Oh, these things, however, are like idols. They promise fulfillment, but ultimately they leave all of us empty. And what this story shows is that real power belongs to God and God alone. The universe itself is his creation. The very breath we breathe, that's a gift from him. Recognizing that this is the first step toward true worship. Worship not of an idol or worldly success, but of a sovereign God who rules everything. And second, it's about how a true believer faces the fear of death or hardship. You know, these three men refused to bow, and this action cost them their safety, even their lives. But their faith didn't waver because they trusted in God's sovereignty. It's greater than any furnace or threat. And here's a profound thought that maybe some people haven't thought about. Faith isn't just about believing God will protect us from difficulty, but that his sovereignty is greater than any danger. See, whether God rescues us or allows us to go through trials, his power and love are never less than enough. Our job is to trust his sovereignty, knowing that his plan is perfect, even if we don't understand it at the moment. And third, the story is about greatness of God's power to deliver and to declare what is true. After witnessing this miracle, Nebuchadnezzar declares that the true God changes the time and the seasons and sets up kings and takes them down. That's powerful, because it reminds us that no earthly power, no pride, nothing we create, no matter how grand or powerful, can compare to the sovereignty of God. I want to make a deep point as well. The true power of God is rooted in his ability to transform hearts and situations. His sovereignty isn't just about control. It's about his capacity to change everything, our lives, our nations, even our souls. So we are all called to recognize what we worship. Are we bowing down to idols of materialism, pride, control? Or are we worshiping the only true king, trusting his plan and power? I wonder often, if Jesus was standing in the middle of the road, and let's say your all-time favorite celebrity, no matter who it is, in the past, present, no, it doesn't matter. Even if they're in the past, let's say they were standing next to Jesus. How many people would go towards their celebrity first? It's something to think about. Now, many people, I think all of us will probably say, oh no, we're going to go to Jesus. But I just wonder if you really take that a thought process. We elevate celebrities so much to the status of a deity that they see their celebrity right in front of them, and their celebrity has their arms open wide, ready to embrace them. It's just something to think about. We're all called to cultivate a faith that can face the fires of life, whether it's suffering or disappointment, opposition. And we're all called to testify to God's greatness. So like Nebuchadnezzar, who finally recognized the Lord's supremacy, our lives should be a proclamation of his power and goodness. So we got to be careful about making idols in our lives. We live in a world that idolize people who have followers, millions of followers, or movie stars or singers and all that other nonsense. The story doesn't end with fire. It actually ends with a declaration of divine majesty. See, Nebuchadnezzar's words teach us something profound. God surpasses every human achievement. His greatness is eternal. His power unmatched. His sovereignty absolute. Okay, everybody, our gospel is Luke chapter 21, verses 12 through 19. Again, Luke chapter 21, verses 12 through 19. And Judy Ann, if you would do us the honor.
But before all this, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be a time for you to bear testimony. Settle it therefore in your minds, not to meditate beforehand how to answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and kinsmen and friends, and some of you they will unalive. You will be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your lives.
Excellent. And if we were at Mass, we'd say the gospel of the Lord. All right there, Judy Ann, what's your reflection here?
Well, this is one of those grim reminders that because we love and follow our Savior, we can expect persecution. And if you think it's bad now, hold on to your hats, kids, because I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Yep.
You look at what Nigerian Christians are going through right now. That could spread all over. They are being unalived because they will not renounce their love for Christ. Families will turn you over to those who persecute you. How sad is that? The good thing about this message is that we are given a heads up on what to expect. None of this will catch us and should never catch any of us off guard. We can expect it. I love verses 14 and 15. They're full of comfort in that Jesus was promising divine support during future trials, assuring them that they should settle it in their hearts to rely on God's help rather than human preparation. And that applies today. Our faith and our trust in the Lord is our stronghold. It's our tornado shelter, if you will. So patience in enduring all of our trials. This also allows us as believers to preserve our inner peace and joy and to keep the burdens of the world's toils at bay. So by enduring all of these persecutions and trusting in God's faithfulness to us, we will gain our lives. He's speaking of our eternal lives.
Very good. I appreciate you being with us tonight and doing a great job. And of course, we're going to be praying with you in about 1 hour from now. So we look forward to doing that as well.
Yes, I'm going to gather up. And by the way, I looked over the first reading. Do you know that I didn't read anything extra? That was all in there.
Right.
I'm serious.
Right.
It is. I went back and I thought, well, how did I get all that? Well, I just counted up the verses. So, yeah, I know. Well, there's actually more. Did you want me to read a few more of that?
No, we're good. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Are you sure?
We're all good.
Okay. I'll see you at night prayer. Good night.
Good night. I'll tell you what, she was reading the whole Bible. I'll tell you what. She was reading. No, I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Now, in this reading, Jesus is warning his followers about the days ahead, persecutions, trials, hardships that will come because of faith in him. So let's go. Verse 12. But before all this, they will seize you and persecute you. They will deliver you to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. Well, you see, Judy Ann now is in timeout because what she apparently did not recognize is by telling me that she actually went back to reread the reading, she probably didn't listen to her buddy Bishop Long, and when Bishop Long gave his homily. Mea culpa, mea max culpa. All right. Jesus is acknowledging that his followers will face suffering, rejection, persecution, not just by society, but even within religious communities. Sometimes standing for truth or faith means facing opposition, even from those who believe in God. The deep lesson here, persecution is part of the Christian journey. It's also an opportunity to stand firm and testify of Christ. You know, this isn't about just survival. It's about divine purpose. When people oppose us because of our faith, it often places us in positions where our words and actions can glorify God even more. And it should. And whatever you do, don't ever apologize for your belief in Christ. In verse 13, it says, this will be your opportunity to witness. So persecution and difficulty, they're not just about suffering. They are divine opportunities to bear witness to Christ. And in our daily lives, our challenges, whether at work, relationships, or personal struggles, they are moments where our faith is being tested. So instead of retreating in fear, we're called to see these moments as chances to witness God's strength and love. 14 and 15, make up your minds not to worry beforehand about how you will defend yourself. For I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. Jesus is now encouraging us not to be anxious about how we will respond in difficult situations. Instead, he promises God's wisdom and words specific to the moment. See, when pressure comes, whether enemies, critics, or difficult circumstances, trust that God will give you the right words, the right attitude, the right strength. It shows, I think, that the divine empowerment is available to believers at exactly the right time when we need it. In verse 16 and 17, you will be betrayed even by your parents, brothers and sisters, relatives and friends, and they will unalive some of you. Everyone will hate you because of me. Persecution can come from unexpected places. Families, friends, loved ones, because faith sometimes divides. It causes us, I think all of us, to challenge worldly or familiar loyalties. Standing for Christ may mean risking relationships. But love for Christ may sometimes require making hard choices. Be careful about denying the divinity of Christ. Sometimes we don't, and especially these days, we're so afraid that we're going to insult someone, that someone is going to be insulted because, you know what? Look, Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus is God incarnate. Either he is or he's not. There cannot, I've said this many times, there's no gray area. And I'm never going to say, well, maybe, no, he is God. Luke 21, verse 18 through 19 says, but there will not be a hair of your head perish. By your endurance, you will gain your lives. Despite the intense hardships, Jesus reassures us that ultimate preservation and victory belongs to God. Our salvation isn't just physical, but spiritual. So in times of hardship, our focus should be on endurance, remaining faithful in difficult times. All right, let's go into a deeper theological explanation, and then we'll go into our meditation. So Jesus is teaching about the times of trouble that will come before the coming of God's kingdom. And many of us think of these words as just about future hardship, but they hold lessons for us now. Let's imagine the scene. Jesus is speaking to his disciples. They're curious, perhaps a little anxious about what the future holds. But he doesn't sugarcoat it. Instead, he gently prepares them and us that tough times will emerge, and they may even be intense. But within that warning, there's a message of hope and courage and God's sovereignty. See, in Jesus' time, the world was full of political upheaval, religious tension. The Jewish people, they were under Roman rule, often persecuted, and leaders and kings who seemed mighty and invincible. They were fragile. One moment they were in power, the next their kingdoms were falling. And Jesus, as a faithful Jewish teacher, was reminding his followers that no matter how powerful earthly authorities appear, the kings, the rulers, even societal structures, they're temporary. The real power belongs to God and God alone. And throughout history, empires have risen and fallen. If you think that the United States is going to remain the empire that it is forever, you are mistaken. The United States will fall. That's inevitable. It's very clear about Revelation. Once the United States falls, Israel is next. This is how Revelation is, in fact, going to play out. As long as the United States is here, Israel has protection. Once the United States falls, then you need to look to Revelation. It is a cycle of human pride, divine sovereignty. And we can see this. Our country alone is, $46 trillion in debt? Trillion. There's no way we're going to be able to pay that back, ever. Ever. We're not even able to pay on the interest. No, what I'm saying is that once the United States falls, the empire falls, then we're not going to be able to financially secure Israel's safety. And once that occurs, you will see the 10 kingdoms. As a matter of fact, I already see the 10 kingdoms. I see them building an empire right now. And I believe that Revelation is prophecy. That is my right. I believe it. I've taught it. I wrote a book about it. I believe it is prophecy. And you can clearly see the 10 empires being formed at this moment. I have no idea when this is going to happen, but it will happen. But what does Jesus teach? His followers shouldn't panic when trouble arises. Instead, we should recognize that these times are opportunities. There'll be moments when our faith can be tested, refined, and strengthened. Our reactions during times of crisis reveal what we truly trust. Do we trust only what's temporary? Or do we trust in the eternal God who holds everything in his hands? You don't have to move. You don't have to be afraid, because all of this is in God's hands. There's no need to fear at all. None. Jesus doesn't say that trouble will destroy us. He says it will test us. The trials are not meant to be ultimate defeat, but opportunities to demonstrate unwavering faith. Stand firm. Testify to God's faithfulness. When Jesus speaks about persecution, being brought before rulers, accused falsely, facing opposition, it's easy to view these as distant threats. But in truth, many of us face daily challenges that test our spiritual resolve. Dismissive words, social pressure, internal doubts, personal setbacks. The words make up your minds not to worry, aren't just about staying calm. They're about trusting that God's divine wisdom will give us the right words, the peace, and the strength in real time. In our weakest moments, God's power is strongest. When we feel unready or overwhelmed, that's precisely when God's wisdom will flow through us if we trust him. And many people think that persecution or suffering diminishes faith. But Jesus invites us to see that even in these hardships, our faith can grow stronger. Our endurance, that holding on to the face of adversity, gains us eternal life. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about trusting that God's sovereignty surpasses temporary trouble. When the world feels shaky, as it does today, whether in personal struggles, societal chaos, global crisis, these are moments for deep spiritual reflection. We are often tempted to cling tightly to what is temporary, possessions, reputation, comfort. But Jesus is calling us to trust the eternal presence of God, who never leaves us or forsakes us, no matter what comes in our lives. Jesus isn't telling us to prepare for doom. He's telling us to prepare our hearts, to trust that no matter what happens, whether we are misunderstood, persecuted, or face hardship, we're not abandoned. God's plan is bigger than all the storms combined. So for those of you that keep asking, do you think the rapture is going to happen? Do you think the second coming is going to happen? I don't worry about it. I do not worry about it. You're right. This country is still very young, but this country is also in incredible debt. We cannot keep we cannot $1 trillion. When you see in history always has a way of repeating itself. You see the mighty power of Rome. Rome was unbelievably powerful in Jesus' time. But what happened? They expanded so much, they got into debt. Politicians were sucking the very life source out of Rome, and it fell. I have never seen this country as divided as I see it today. That, my friends, is a problem. However, I don't worry about what happens tomorrow. If the second coming happens tomorrow, good. I'm ready. If you believe in the rapture, if the rapture happens, I'm ready. Keep your faith always in God. Jesus reminds us that our endurance in trials is what gains us life, not because we outsmart or outright our enemies, but because our faith anchors us in God's eternal love and sovereignty. Even in times of trouble, God's divine hand is with us, guiding and strengthening. Believe that he is working behind these scenes, even when everything seems to shake around us. So when the pressures of life threaten to shake your faith, remember you're not alone. God's grace is sufficient. His wisdom is available, and his love endures forever. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, everybody, let's get into our meditation. So we're going to turn the chat off here on TikTok. Unfortunately, I can't turn it off on the other social media platforms. But I do ask now, thank you very much for the gifts. I appreciate them. But do me a favor, let's do no gifts. No gifts on TikTok. I want you to be in this moment of this meditation. That's far more important. Okay, so thank you very much for the gifts. But you don't worry about the likes. Don't worry about any of that stuff. I just want you to be in this moment. Okay. So I need you to get into settle into a posture that feels safe and comfortable, seated or reclined. If you want to keep feet on the floor if seated, unless you can, whatever you're feeling comfort. That's the most important thing. I want you now to listen to this reading. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priest." And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. And Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" And then he said to them, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." Close your eyes now, if you are comfortable in doing so, and begin taking 3 slow, intentional breaths. Inhale gently through your nose, hold for just a beat, and exhale fully through your mouth, releasing any tension. Again, inhale, receiving quiet. Exhale, letting go. One more time. Inhale and exhale. As you continue to breathe slowly and naturally, allow the breath to anchor you. With each exhale, imagine yourself surrendering small concerns, letting go all the tension. Bring awareness to the crown of your head and imagine a soft, warm light, gentle as a dawn, resting there. The light is not your doing. It is a presence that welcomes you. And let it spread down over your forehead, softening all worries, across your eyes and into your cheeks. Release your jaw. and become at peace. Allow the light to move into your neck and shoulders, loosening every tightness, and let it travel into your chest. Notice your heartbeat, steady. And with each exhale, feel your body relax. And let the warmth descend into your arms and hands and fingertips, filled with calm. And let this light travel down through your pelvis and thighs and knees, all the way to the feet. You are fully supported. If any stray thoughts come, simply notice them as clouds passing and bring your attention back to the breath and the soft inner light. You are safe. I will now count from 7 to 1. With each number, allow yourself to feel more inward, more attentive to God's presence. 7. Growing quieter. 6. Turning attention inward. 5. Opening your heart. 4. All senses becoming hushed. 3. More attentive to the inner presence. 2. Nearer to the still, small voice. 1. Resting in a deep, peaceful attentiveness. Now imagine the road Jesus travels between Samaria and Galilee. Feel the sun on your skin, warm but not too harsh. Hear the rhythm of a distant feet, the murmur of a crowd, the hush of anticipation. And let yourself be one of those traveling, part of the living story. And ahead you see 10 people standing apart, lives marked by diseases. It isolates them. See them clearly, not as objects, as full human beings. See their wounds, their sadness. Honor their dignity and notice how your heart responds to these people who are sick and have been ostracized from community. Let your compassion awaken. Jesus approaches, and in this scene, he is fully present. Steadfast eyes, voice that both commands and comforts. And feel the atmosphere shift when he nears, as if the air itself hopes. And he simply says, "Go, show yourselves to the priest." Hear this as both a command and an invitation, an enactment of faith. What does Jesus sound like? And you watch as the 10 move away and notice the small, ordinary movements, shift of weight, a cautious step. Then they're walking with a surprising lightness. One of the 10 pauses. Something inside him turns. He's overwhelmed by gratitude and returns, while the others continue. See this man falling at Jesus' feet, face turned toward him, offering thanks. Allow the scene to expand, not merely as an event that you watch, but as a reality in which you are included. And Jesus then looks directly at you. He knows your name. He knows your grief, your longing. There is no performance required, just honesty. He says to you, they were healed from leprosy. What would you like to be healed from today? Feel the touch of God's presence, like a warm light, a handheld force like water on parched skin. Let that presence move through whatever burdens you hold. You are not erased. You are healing, restored. And Jesus says to you, your faith has healed you. If you wish, you may whisper a phrase or gratitude to Jesus. Gratitude is an act that opens the heart beyond what healing alone does. It returns us to relationship. And allow whatever words that Jesus might speak to you. These words are a gift. Perhaps he says your name, a promise. Receive whatever he says. And stay with this tenderness of this exchange for a few breaths. Notice what changes in you, how your posture, your breathing, your inner landscape respond. As you gently rest in the afterglow of this encounter, allow an intention to form, not a heavy obligation, but a simple, faithful step you can take this week to live out gratitude, to be an agent of healing for others. It may be a word, a phone call, prayer. And as you make this promise to Jesus, Jesus reminds you, I knew you before the beginning of time. Take in the love and the comfort that he offers. And now rest for a moment in the assurance that being seen and being grateful changes you and sends you forth to embody that change and help others. And now I will bring you back to full waking presence, carrying with you the sense of being seen, healed, and sent. You may thank Jesus, and you can always return to this moment at any time that you need. With each number, you will feel more awake, more grounded, more fully yourself. 1. Energy returning to your hands and feet. 2. Deeper breath and the sense of the place you are in. 3. Movement return to your shoulders and neck. 4. Your eyes beginning to flutter, the sacred flame of your intention gently held. 5. Open your eyes when you are ready, fully present, steady, and carrying a calm confidence. And take a long conscious breath. Stretch gently if you wish. And when you feel ready, be present here in this moment. For those of you who are listening to this on podcast, we say good night to you guys. All right. There we go. We're going to close this out on podcast, and I'm going to upload this right now so you guys can have this. And meditation, Bible study, Bible of faith. All right, and I'll have that Bible study. Let me find this so I can do it. There we go. And it's being published now. Okay, we'll turn it on for everybody so they can say hello. Okay, for everybody, I want to remind you that we are going to have our night prayer coming up at the top of the hour. Okay, at the top of the hour. So please consider joining us. We hope that you can be there. All right, for all the other social media platforms, remember I tell you your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless. And don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. So everybody, hopefully I will see you guys, well, actually only about 20 minutes from now. God bless.